What's up, guys? Welcome back to Inside Out Precision. Holding an Elite. Been a while since I had one of these in my hands. We actually just decided to carry these this year, and I'm really impressed with this bow. This is the new Elite Ethos. We'll go over all the specs here in a minute. Elite's always made great stuff. For one reason or another, just with the brands we carried, we didn't really have a need to bring another brand in. But we did a lot of growth this year. I think we can handle another line of bows. So we decided to bring in Elite, and they did a great job getting me this bow. I think I talked to them, and like 6 days later it showed up. This just launched earlier this week. So I was eager to get my hands on it and see what this thing does. And so far what I see, I'm really, really impressed. So as usual, I'm gonna go over all the techs, or the tech specs, the technical like engineering side of things in this, like what they did and why they did it. And then we're gonna shoot through the chronograph at a 30-inch draw and a 28-inch draw with arrows ranging from like 525 down to 385. So we'll get into the specs first. So again, this is the Elite Ethos. This one's in the midnight copper color, which they got a crazy array of colors that you can choose from. It's 33 inches axle to axle, has a 6 3/4 inch brace height. IBO's at 340 in the 80% let off, which we'll go over their cam system here. I love it. And goes from 25.5 to 31 inches. Now they do have another bow called the Kairos, which same riser, same limb, slightly smaller cam on it. That one will go, I believe, from 24 to 29.5. So if you're in a little shorter draw length range, you get all the same technical features that are in this bow, but it's gonna be a little more efficient in that, 27, 28 inch draw length range. But that's for another day. So, the cam system on this, I mentioned it went from 25.5 to 31 inches. It does that in 1/4 inch increments. To me, that is huge. If you followed me, you know what a stickler I am about draw length and loop length in order to make a bow aim well. So much of the time people think they need stabilizers or this or that, or they feel too long at 30 but too short at 29.5, and they probably truly are right in between. I know I am. I'm a true 30 1/4. I usually get a 30-inch bow, and then I got to put a couple twists in the cable, take a couple twists out of the string to get that 3/16 or a 1/4 inch out of it, to go right in between the two, or I got to take a 30.5 inch bow and shorten it up a little bit. So 1/4 inch draw lengths for me is huge. I think anybody who shoots a lot is going to really like being able to play around with that and really customize the way that bow feels to them. It's such a big thing when it comes to making a bow aim well, is getting the draw length set correctly. If you're not comfortable, you won't be accurate. It's that simple. So I love that. On top of that, so on the end of the cam here, this little piece, that is your let off adjustment. Now you can go from 70 to 90%, which is awesome. There's a lot of bows that'll go 80 to 90, but what this allows you to do is, let's say hunting season ends, you got an indoor, like winter indoor league. You wanna drop that bow down to 60 pounds, but when that happens, you want more holding weight. So you can bump those draw stops out, anywhere between 90 and 70, down to 70%. So you can drop that peak weight down, but keep the holding weight you want to still execute good shots and hold on target really well. Again, just a really awesome feature in my opinion with this cam system. It does come with limb stops in the package, which when you draw, they will come up and go right here. They actually screw on to your mod right here. So again, different positions there is gonna create more or less let off. So they really thought of all the options here. Like, you can buy this bow and do whatever you want with it. When it comes to the riser design, this whole bow is engineered around being comfortable and being stable. A lot of people focus on the axle to axle length of the bow, like what's on the sticker. And I mean, why wouldn't you? Generally speaking, guys like the way a 34 or 35-inch bow aims, but they don't like the way, they don't want to sit in a tree stand with it. They don't want to hike around the woods with it. It's just too big. What Elite did with this, with the design of this cam at full draw, where the lobe of this cam is, the string angle at full draw, so 30 inches on this bow and 30 inches on their Energy 35, which is a 35-inch bow of theirs. It's a few years old now. The string angle is identical at 30 inches. So even though this bow is 2 inches shorter axle to axle, that string angle is actually more vertical, which to me is just more comfortable. Guys in general like that feel. On top of that, they lengthened the riser, laid that limb angle back a touch. So the riser on this is actually 2 inches longer than the riser on the Energy 35. So you're 2 inches shorter axle to axle, but you have a more stable aiming riser because it is actually 2 inches longer than on the 35-inch bow. So again, this all goes down to a bow that aims and holds well on target and is forgiving. 6 3/4 inch brace height. I mean, that's a really forgiving brace height to still be able to get 340 feet a second. Although this bow is right-handed, I've been shooting it and I can tell you it feels extremely, extremely stable. I'm really excited to get a lefty in and start shooting it because this thing aims like a rock. Oh, by the way, people always ask when I have a stabilizer on the boat. This is the Spider Tracker series. So I threw this on here just because I like to shoot a bow with a stabilizer on it. It does come kind of like what Hoyt's doing in PSE now, this little dampener thing at the bottom here, but you have multiple stabilizer mounts here if you'd like. You can run your back bar off the bottom here or off the front. When it comes to tuning this bow, they've had it for a couple of years now, but they call it the set technology. And so you don't need a press to tune this bow. Instead of pulling the axles and swapping shims around like on Matthews and Hoyts and PSEs and pretty much any binary cam these days, what they did was actually, there's a set screw right here, and then you turn this guy right here, and what it's actually doing is rocking that limb pocket back and forth. When you do that, it's obviously gonna load one limb differently than the other, which is gonna cast the string the opposite direction. So, really cool feature. You know, I know a lot of guys love Bowtechs because they don't need a press to tune their bow, and this is the same thing. And I think it might be a little more solid than the Bowtech technology. I don't know, it's new, but I haven't heard any negatives to this at all. And it's kind of a cool story how it came about. One of their pro shooters, Nathan Brooks, he's been a pro forever, and I know he's highly involved with a lot of the design of these bows, and he was having trouble getting one of his wife's bows tuned up. So what he started doing was taking the limb rockers and shaving a little bit off of one of them, and then that limb would settle slightly lower than the other, thus changing the tune of the bow. And he was doing that and thought like, might be onto something here. So that's where this technology came from. I love that. You know, guys that live a long way from a shop, you can tune this bow at home. You don't need a press. It's super easy and seems to work really, really well. It does not have any integrated rest mounts or sight mounts. You're not going to use a Picatinny on this or mount, you know, like a bridge lock or anything like that. But you do have two different sight mounting holes. Those of you with shorter draw lengths, lower peep heights, stuff like that, you know, being able to mount that sight lower, that means you can start your sight closer to the top of the bar, which gives you more travel, essentially, out of your sight. And sometimes quivers, like if you have a quiver that mounts on your bow, it might get in the way of your rest or something, so you can change the position of your sight block, which thus changes the position of your quiver a lot of times if you're using a single piece. So lots of cool features on this bow. Another one that I really like is on their roller guard right here. Oh, it's hard to see, but you can see those little lines. So if you're shooting vanes that are really high profile, especially like if you're shooting an indoor arrow, like the arrow itself is so much fatter than you shoot a high profile vane on it, sometimes you can get pretty close to your cables here. If I loosen that screw on the bottom, and you do have to press the bow to do this, but if you loosen that screw on the bottom, you know, I can shift that cable guard out further and get more clearance for my vanes. So again, they just thought of everything. I know they've had that on their bows for a while, but it's a cool feature. You know, if you run into an issue, you can fix it with this bow. So that's kind of everything that I can see in this bow that makes it, you know, at first glance, I think it's a great looking bow. This midnight copper color is awesome. I know it looks really shiny right now, but when it's hanging on the shelf, it doesn't look like that. It's just this ring light on the camera. I've got it as low as it can go, but it's pitch black in here, so it looks super bright. Anyway, I'm gonna quit yakking about this. We're gonna do a speed test. So right now it's at 30 inches, 80%. We're gonna do 525 down to a 385 arrow, and then we're gonna drop to 28 inches and shoot those same arrows. I'm curious to see what it does. I have one of the arrows that I hunted with this year. It's like 400 and I think it's like, I don't know, 465 or 470. I know what my Matthews shoots it at, so I'm curious to see what this shoots it at. So yeah, enough talking. Let's go sling some slivers. All right, so we got the chrono set up here. First arrow is gonna be, dropping them all. This is a 525 grain arrow. Again, this is 30 inches, 70 pounds, 80%. So 525 first arrow. .273, that's moving. This is a 480 grain arrow, we'll call it, technically 482. .289. So my hunting arrow, that is a 125 point on it. That's the same arrow. My hunting arrow is 470. And I'm shooting 77 pounds on my phase 4, and it's 292, so that's impressive. This next arrow is a 440 grain arrow. That thing's moving. All right, 440. Draws smooth. 297, and now the little speed demon. This one's gonna be fast. This is 385. .316. So definitely moving. Pretty much kind of right where I was expecting it. The 273 with a 525 grain arrow is really good speed. So I'm gonna shorten this up to 28 inches now. We're gonna shoot those same arrows. All right, got it changed, 28, still 70 pounds, 80%. So first arrow is gonna be 525. .259. This is a 480 grain arrow. Oh, reshoot. Didn't read it. All right, 480. There we go. 272, so not pretty good jump. 440 grain arrow. .280, and now for the burner, this one is 385. .298, so basically 300. So yeah, pretty great speeds for the specs of this bow. If you're local here, come down and shoot it. If not, I highly recommend getting down to your local dealer and giving one of these a shot before this upcoming season. I know a lot of you guys back east are just getting going, so if you're looking for a new bow, this might be a contender. Thanks for watching again. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, really helps us out. And remember, keep them in the middle, and precision is the decision.